confessed to a murder that somebody else has already confessed to and is actually in Oregon State Prison for it. So they were a little confused. Now I'm going to rewind. Back in 1984, the Roseburg Police Department had made an arrest against a Michael Timothy Collier, who was 28 at the time. And they arrested him on suspicion and wanting to question him and obviously charge him with a string of burglaries on some bars and taverns, I believe. And at the time, he'd been pulling a pretty good string of them with a partner of his. So while he was in interrogation, and this, I can tell you, was part of his dying declaration, while he was knowing he was dying, these are the things that he told me whenever I found out about all this. Because it's not something he talked about. I don't think he ever expected anybody to know, but when I found out, we sat down and we talked about it, and he told me his side of things, which is not something I don't think has ever actually been publicized or even spoke of besides possibly to me. I do have one other person that was there that heard it all. Plus my daughter also heard some of it as well. So this is his story. Micah told me that when they took him into interrogation, first thing everybody has to remember is he didn't have a very high education. He was a very smart man, but he was not an educated or intelligent man. He could figure out how to fix anything, but social skills, conversational skills, stuff like that, they really weren't the best all the time. And he wasn't very good at social cues. But anyway, I digress. So when they took him in, the thing is they started asking him about the burglaries, which he kind of expected. And they kind of kept trying to goad him into telling who his partner was, like, the threats, the bribes, all of that. And he refused and he refused. Well, during the questioning about the burglaries and his partner, they bring up this person who is now no longer with us and ask if Mike knew him, and Mike was like, I know him. Yeah, they were both homeless. So in a lot of cases here in this area, the homeless will actually group together and like a group here and a group there. And it's very common for everybody to kind of at least know everybody's name. But it's also common not to. So I know that may sound weird, but like the person could pass my 100 times kind of thing, and somebody will tell me his name so I know of him. And that's how Mike felt about this guy. And this person's name was Richard Floyd Combs. He was 25 years old, and he was a transient. I'm trying to actually locate anybody in his family so that I can actually talk about this with them as well. I hate doing that because I know they're victims too, but I think that they want the truth. I really do. So hopefully somehow that can happen. Anyway, Mike was a little bit confused why they were bringing him into this until they kind of laid it on him that they believe that Mike and his partner has killed this man. And Mike was like, no. He said, But then the way they kept talking, he felt like perhaps maybe his partner had done something on his own. Maybe pulled a job on his own, or something had happened because he was trying to fence something, whatever. And maybe his partner had done this, and that's why they were trying to tag him with it. So in his mind, that's, the connection. And a lot of people may not understand this, but immediately Mike goes, I did it. He confesses to an extent. He told me that it was, and I've called to get records. I've tried to talk to I've tried to get a hold of the old detectives on the case. Not a damn thing. There is nothing. I don't even think I think honestly they probably burned it. And I'm not even joking. And you'll learn more about that as we go along. Sorry. But he told me that he basically told them, what do I have to say? And they kind of guided him in his words about what had happened, because he's like, well, did I shoot him? Kind of thing, and trying to figure out how he killed him. And that right there is like, oh, damn. And I understand that it's really hard to believe me because I don't have evidence. I was trying my best to find as much as I could, and with what I have, is very circumstantial. Very. But that's more than they had against him. So, as it gets closer, Mike decides he's going to plead no contest because he knows that he's not going to let his partner go down for this. because in his mind, that's who's done it. And he's going to protect that person. And he also knows that they don't have enough evidence to fry him. But they don't have enough evidence to save him either. So he pleads no contest, which is not a guilty plea. No contest basically means I'm not pleading guilty, but I can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt I didn't do it. I can't give another plausibility. So it's kind of a bullshit answer, because I don't think he understood exactly what that would mean later on. And I didn't actually until recently either. And I'm kind of pissed about it. Matter of fact, I will never use that plea. Nope. Anyway, so a couple years go by, and then somebody comes and visits him at the prison or writes him a letter. I'm not sure. Somehow this person gets a letter to him, a message to him, and lets him know that it had nothing to do with them, that he needed to tell the truth because it wasn't protecting anybody that he thought it was. And so he did. He recanted, and he wanted to get out of there. He filed for an appeal. He started doing everything he needed to, and he was being ignored. Okay, so we're talking, he said that was about 1988, 89. And a lot of people ask, well, why did it take so long to get him that message? Because the last thing you want to do whenever you've committed some serious issues with somebody that are against, the law and we'll get the wee-woos, is go hang out with them in a prison visiting room. It's a little suspicious. Just a little sus. Just a little. So, yeah. That's why it took so long. The thing is this is, 1988, 1989 area. So during this time, there's a truck driver up in Alaska who's getting primed up to do some bad things. And then in 91, he's caught. Now, when Mr. Combs passed on and this horrible event happened, I mean, it is really horrible what happened to him, and I'm so sorry. Like, nobody should have to deal with what he did, and it's wrong. And, I am very aware he's the victim here, and that's one of my biggest motivations, besides the fact that Mike was a very close person to me. Victims deserve justice, and so does the family. And I wouldn't want to blame the wrong person my whole life for the wrong things. I have some very deep personal experience with that, which, Michaela, if you ever hear this, I love you, and I'm so grateful that you were able to forgive me. Anyway, shall we? So, the thing is, it's also because if they can do this to somebody like this, they can do it again and again, and that's not okay either. This needs to be out in the open. Because it's 1984, and somebody is murdered in a very horrific way. Their body is taken and placed in a very public spot. Exposed completely. And it never makes the news. There's not a single news article, whisper word, or anything. Literally all that we have to know that it was actually real, besides, I think there's 3 articles in total from the whole shebang. And that's not because of this. Those articles didn't come out until the 90s, whenever Fautenberry was given his finals, and people were reporting on it. I mean, and not even a lot of people did. Like, literally, I think there's 3. And they're all in this doc right here, by the way. So, the thing is it was never publicized how he died, anything else, that he even died. That's another thing. They didn't put out a notice. There was no obituary, so there's no way, unless you knew, you didn't know. So here's the thing. How does a man who's in Alaska, who obviously wasn't a part of the investigation, who wasn't here when the trial and everything obviously went down, or it was but wasn't known, know extremely intimate details of the crime? And I mean intimate details, like the exact way the person was removed from their flesh costume, and the exact place that the costume was left behind, where it was put, like, publicly. Okay, not only that, for this to have happened, it would have happened at a park, And Fautenberry, he says that what had happened was he was drinking with Combs down here in Roseburg, and they were on the river at Gaddis Park. That they had been drinking pretty heavy, and I'm sorry, not Richard, but John Fautenberry had just gotten fired from another job. He was very frustrated, and the more he drank, the more pissed off he was getting. And then finally, Mr. Combs said something or did something, and it started an argument, and the next thing John knows, he's angry enough, and he takes something very sharp and puts it, in a place that if you do it too, you can't breathe, you can't talk. Right in there. And then knows that the flesh costume is essentially picked up and taken up a very sharp terrain that at the time had a lot, and I do mean a lot, of dense forest and downfall, and it was not paved. There was no paths. So we're talking like from the river all the way up to I-5. Okay, and that's one hell of a gradient compared. And I mean, I probably will go and actually video exactly that route because I do know exactly where it's at. So whoever did this to the person would have had to been able to pick up the costume at a DEAD weight, which if you've never understood that, what it means is when something is moving around and kind of woo, it's easier to carry. It really is. So I've always told people just add like 50 pounds onto whatever you're carrying if it's not like all wiggly and awake. So it takes a lot of strength, especially to get up that hill and everything else. And I know Mike was not extremely fit. Like, he's always been scrawny, lean muscle, and everything else. He could lift himself up out of a dumpster easy. He could probably do a couple pull-ups. But as for that kind of trek, that would have taken a lot for him, like a lot. And even back then, there was a substantial amount of homeless here that was living down there in camps and stuff. So for somebody to not have seen this would have been unusual. And that's because of the struggle it would have taken, because it would not have been easy for Mike to have done this. So he would have had to get inventive or like dragged it or a lot of different things. So he would have been noticed because he was taking way too much time making too much noise. And I'm not making excuses there. I know I know him for over 10 years, and I know what he was capable of, also what he looked like. I've been able to dig up pictures and stuff like that and see what he looked like, and enough information to know that he was not, I'm not going to say he couldn't have done this. I'm going to say he would have been hard-pressed to have done this. Without help, anyway. And the thing is here in this town, the reason people keep getting caught on everything, nobody knows how to keep a damn secret. Nobody, except for on very rare occasions, which we'll be going over those in other cases, like Amy Fenton, who was very much unalived in the worst possible way and was ignored. Kind of like this. So anyway, essentially what it boils down to is there is absolutely no way that John Fautenberry could have known the intimate details of this crime without either A, having been there, or B, he has to know the person that did it very well. Like, the details were immaculate. And I know I asked Mike on many occasions if he knew Fautenberry. I showed him pictures. We talked about it. I kept bringing up the memory. He did not know him. Never once did he ever meet him. He's 100% certain on that. I mean, he's like, as always, there's that chance that he walked by him or whatever and said hi, or even just kind of looked at him. But Mike says there's absolutely no way. Oops. See what happens when I pay attention? But there was absolutely no way that they were friends or had time to chill or talk. And I also know Mike would not have told him about something like that. Period. A lot of people talk about a lot of things. Mike knew a lot of secrets. Yes, he did. He did a lot of fuckery. However, because he was getting ready to go into another dimension of all this stuff, and he knew it. Like, he knew it. He, over the last 6 to 7 months of his being around this realm, started to talk to me about things that I will forever hold secret, because it's not for me to tell on some things. Sorry, I had to adjust there. So, there are some things that he told me that I can tell, and I will over time. This is one of the things that we went over, and not only did we go over it, but like he did not want to do recordings, which I really wish he would have. But he did have me write it down. I took voice notes myself, so I have a lot of actual like open memory to this, or new memory. I don't know what to call it, ingrained memory maybe. And yes, he was my friend, but you know what? He was a liar. I'll straight up say he lied about some shit. Like he told me he went to prison, but he told me it was for murder, but not like this. It was a totally different story, and I get why. I understand now more than I did then. We spent actually a couple of years not talking because he was a liar. He lied about a lot of things, and I was so mad at him. And this was many years ago, and then I came back after about 2.5 years, and I saw him again, and he asked me to go with him to the doctor. Now, he's been on the streets for as long as I've known him, and I've known him over 10 years. And everything I've read about him, he's been on the streets since he got out of prison, or pretty close to it. He got out of prison in 2001, and then he moved to Louisiana for a while, stayed in New Orleans for a couple of years, till 2008, and then he came back here to Oregon. I don't have any actual proof that he was ever in a home of any kind after prison. So, when I went with him to the doctors, and I saw the scans, and I talked to the doctors, I've been doing caregiving off and on most of my life. I've done hospice care, palliative care. I've specialized in different types of, like stroke rehabilitation, stuff like that. I'm really good at it. It's not what I do anymore because I needed to move on from that in my life, but at the time, I had just gotten full custody of my daughter, like as a single parent only. There's no other parenting. I'm trying to, get my business off the ground, stuff like that. And I just sat there for a minute and realized I had a hard choice to make. And I asked this man if he was going to move in with me or if I was moving in with him, because I realized no matter how we look at this, there's really nothing anybody can do. His body was riddled with the big C word, and there was several different types. It'd been metastasizing for a long time, and he was hurting all the time. So he told me he couldn't move indoors, and I understood that. So I spent the next year and 3 months with him. I put a tent next to his, for the most part, like we were very close to each other at all times. He would sleep inside. I'd build like little huts or whatever, and he'd sleep inside there with me. He'd sleep on the floor because I'd always make him a place right near the fire pit, so he'd stay warm as much as possible. And we hid it from everybody we knew, even on the streets. It was very hard. We had to have a hidden camp near the hospital, so when he had chemo, we had a place to take him, and people wouldn't know how sick he was because he did not want that. Every night that he was feeling like he could, and he pushed himself to do it, he'd go try to find food, or people needed wood or clothes, and he never came back empty-handed. Never. People that he knew robbed him blind, like stole from him the night before. He would still feed them if they came over hungry. If they needed a blanket, he'd get them one. He spent all of his life that I knew him, for the most part. He did his own stupid shit, his own fuckery, but whatever. For the most part, like, he really did try to take care of the people around him. The closer it got to the end, the more I learned about him. But there were still some things not adding up, and I figured maybe if I knew those things for some reason, I was like, maybe I could do more for him, because he was hurting so bad. We had to go above and beyond some certain things, But, so I started to do a background search, like a deep, dark, like, heavy-duty one, because I'm good at those, and so I found out about Fautenberry and Combs and all that. A secret he has been keeping to himself since, nobody around us knew about it. And people that he was camped with didn't know about it, and he's been friends with them for over 10 years, too. He literally kept us to himself. And I sat there going, Jesus. And that's when I made a very huge change in my life, and it's because of him. So, like I was saying, yes, he's a liar. Or is he? This man spent so much time in prison, caged up for something he didn't do. He'd read some books, and he'd hear stories. So, yeah, he created this life in his imagination. where he was a hero and he was a badass and all this other stuff, where he was a tinkerer that traveled and, a soldier and just all these different things. And they were all lies. At least to some people. To me, I finally understood it. They weren't lies to him. That was his life. What happened to him behind those bars wasn't his life. That was just where his body was. He was telling us the only memories he really had that didn't involve a cage were the ones he created. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with this dog thing, am I? The thing is he did all of this, and he made that world up in his mind, but it's hard to explain. I don't see it as lying anymore. I see it as he told me what he wished his life would have been. What he wished he could have done. And it wasn't hurting nobody at that point. He knew I knew. We'd already, that's why we had a falling out, was because I found out he had lied about too much stuff. But the thing is I stopped caring about that when I realized I was losing him. Now I miss those stories. But the real one's still not done. He lies in some people's eyes. But he didn't lie to me about this. When he was telling me the things he was telling me, not just this, but the other, absolutely he was not lying. I know this because of what he said and how he said it. This is a hill I'm willing to stand and die on. He's innocent. And Roseburg knew it. So, again, I digressed way too badly. I'm so sorry. I suck at this sometimes. So, here's the dilemma now. They have two men who've confessed to the same crime. They have one that's already been convicted in Ohio and is going to be sentenced to, the forever sleep. And then they have one that is kind of like pissing them off because he still won't tell them what they want to know. Not even after all these years. It's already been like 8 years at this point and he's still sitting there like, no. No, fuck you. And that's got to piss him off because not many people in the world were like him. I mean, that's one of the reasons we get along and his close circle. That's what we all believe in, is that kind of loyalty. And people don't get it, man. Like, you can't even buy that kind of loyalty. It comes out of special emotions. Strong emotions, as a matter of fact. So, the only thing that Fautenberry could have given them to connect him to this crime, is how it was done. The information that he knew nobody else knew. Because there's no evidence now. It's been over 10 years at this point. Or it's been like 8 years at this point, 9 years at this point when he's arrested. There's no evidence. Hell no. There probably was not even a real fucking investigation or evidence gathering to know the truth. I mean, honestly. You have to understand, I have tried to get any kind of records on this. I've tried to get any kind of court information on this. Anything. It has been that long. It's been over fucking forever. It's almost been it's been over 30 years since this case was closed. And I understand that. But they have nothing. They just tell me that basically I'm full of shit. Like, they act like this case doesn't exist. Because, okay, maybe it was your mama and grandmama that took care of it, people, but it does exist. And then when I show them the news article or I send it to them, they don't respond. It's like, this is something that they wanted swept under the damn rug. And let me tell you why. So the evidence Fautenberry brought down to the detectives of Roseburg wasn't enough for them to spend the money to have a multi-state investigation on a serial killer who's already been condemned to death. To them, why waste that money? Because, he's already going to go, be sentenced and deal with his thing. And him being convicted of Combs wouldn't have given him any more time or any less time. So they just thought it was no reasoning. Now, because Mike pleaded no contest, it means that he avoided a trial. But it also means that he did not make the state prove beyond a burden of a doubt that he was guilty. Which means, for you to have your case overturned like that, somebody has to bring in evidence that would overturn the conviction. How can you overturn a conviction that was done on acceptance versus guilt? The problem we had then, or he had then, is because of that no fucking contest. Sure, this guy can. If this guy doesn't walk in with like flaming gun or DNA, right? Mike's screwed. Because Fautenberry's word, even though he had intimate crime details, wasn't enough for Roseburg. They decided, doesn't matter. 2 bad guys off the street for the price of 1. I'm not even joking. That's in this doc pretty much. It explains why they didn't do it. And he did file appeals. He actually, when he got out, he did try to sue them, and he lost because, again, not all the information that they would need was there. And I don't blame him for not trusting the system back then. I don't. You know, he told me that if I could get his name cleared and go after them for this, that he wanted me to, and he wanted me to do some direct things with that. And yes, I do have that in writing. If you can read it. The thing is, he didn't do it. And now I'm going to tell everybody why. I'm going to tell the missing puzzle piece that nobody's ever heard out of anybody else's mouth, because I know for a fact, had anybody else known this, it would have changed everything. Maybe not in the justice system, but everything in other ways. Like with people that believe certain things about him and stuff like that. And it may have raised enough doubt to get his case reinvestigated. So when they pulled him in for those burglaries, they kept asking for his partner's name, and he wouldn't give it up. In the newspaper, they said that he confessed, and he admitted to confessing to help and protect another guy out. There's one problem with all that. Her name wasn't male's. It was not masculine. She was born all woman. And he loved her wholeheartedly. And there's nothing in this God's green earth that would have made him give up her name. He thought that his girl, the woman he was in love with, who we will call Bobby, I do not have enough information on her. I do know that she was made to leave this earth many, many years ago. And I know that this man loved her enough that he did what he did for her. And I'm so jealous. You know, could you imagine somebody loving you enough to give up literally the rest of their life for you? Being stuck in a cage for you? Like, wow. But he told me stories about her before, so I'd heard her name. And that's when it all made sense. The stories he was telling me before about the break-ins and the things, it was her. He thought she may have had to have done something to somebody to protect herself, especially if that somebody wasn't wearing any clothes when they found him. Mike had thought that he had tried to SA Bobby and that she defended herself. That's why when they started like making it sound like it was all tied together, that's where his brain went. And that's why he did what he did. And that's the thing that the police didn't know. That's the thing that's been missing all the time. Everybody wanted to know why. What makes sense? Why would he do this? Because he loved her. A few days before he died, because we were on the streets like he asked, because he wanted to die out there. That's truly what he wanted. It's the only life he knew. He was feral, and I can understand that. Taking him indoors would have been the worst thing in the world for him. And I don't personally believe it, and I never did, especially in doing hospice, that a person should die miserable. This is their last experience in the world. Make it worthwhile. That's all I was trying to do, is give him peace before he goes. Just like I have with every other patient. So anywho, no, it was the morning he had the stroke, which he passed away 2 days after, I believe. He came in to my little hut thing that I'd made, and it was a 4-poster. It was awesome. I loved it. Put his head on my knee like he always did, and he goes, "Mom, I'm tired." I said, "I know, Pop." I said, "You've done such a good job here. You can move on now." And I've been trying to encourage, because he was in so much pain. You have to understand, he had multiple different types of the big C. He'd given up on the chemo. It was just too much. He was literally being, cannibalized from the inside out. He was horrifically hurting. He was tired. Plus, a lot of the people, a lot of the elders he knew, especially here, had passed on, and it was taken away from him bit by bit. To watch the people he'd known his whole life, like, you know, go and him slowly starting to be, he was afraid of being the last, and he couldn't deal with that. He wasn't, thankfully, but he just, he was tired, and I understood that. And then he looked up at me, and when he said what he said, I knew. He said, "Ma, I miss Bobby." And he had that look that I've seen before, and I just looked at him straight in the face. I said, "Mike, she's waiting for you, honey. All you gotta do is close your eyes." He then proceeded the next night that night to have a stroke. I was just coming back to the camps because I had to go charge my stuff. And one of our very, very dear friends, who I call brother and Pop's called son, we all call him Humble, he came up to me and told me I might want to go say goodbye. And I was like, "What the hell are you talking?" Because I had just seen him that morning. I didn't think, he was going to And I ran over there and I hit my knees and I realized what he was. I said, "Mike, whether you like it or not, I'm calling the hospital." And he'd already shook his head yes. Thankfully, another friend of ours, Harley, had already done so. The person I was seeing at the time walked over with Harley and they carried Mike out. And he went into cardiac arrest in the parking lot, and it took them 10 minutes to stabilize him. Once he was stabilized, they took him in the ambulance, and that was the last time I ever saw him. I did talk to him on the phone after that, just once. His sister-in-law let me. And for the last 2 days of his life, because he went to the hospital, and the next day they decided to put him in his brother's home, where he was pretty much, I believe, raised. And I didn't even know he had a brother around here. That was kind of crazy. And his brother and his sister-in-law took care of him for the last 2 days of his life because they had him hooked up to machines that we couldn't have on the streets. And I hope that when he did, that he could see sound. I hope he could see the sound. I miss him every day. But it never settled right with me, the fact that he's lost, how much he lost because of this. And how much people don't know about him. Any other time, this would have been a fairy tale kind of love. I mean, screw Bonnie and Clyde. This guy, I mean, literally, he took the big rap for her. And he had to hide that. Once you get that, like he told me a couple of times, once you get that kind of conviction, you ain't gonna have no life after. Not around here. He wasn't wrong. Then he started telling me about how it was conspiracies. That they kept him in there because he wouldn't tell who Bobby was, but also they kept him in there because he was, Roseburg is very racist. It's very phobic. It's very, very much pure white colony kind of thing. And I'm white, phew. I mean, right now they're trying to eradicate the homeless and ignoring any real options to do this the right way, but this would have destroyed him even more had he lived to see it. His way of life is dying. I'm trying to help save it, but anyway, I digress. His dream was to open up a outdoor 4-stage vocational rehab and domestic rehab for homeless people. And if that was his dream, was just to open up something that would work. I kind of put in all the details. It's like I designed the plan and everything, but we worked on it together. This was what he wanted. But he knew he could never do that because his name was tainted. That's what he said. I have no idea how we're going to get this foundation off the ground, but we're gonna. And I'd like to name it after him, and I'd like to hold his head up high in heaven and knowing finally everybody knows the truth. So I'm telling his truth. I wish I had the smoking gun. I wish I had more. But ask yourselves logically this. How would Fautenberry have known intimate details about the crime? They monitored all of Collier's mail once he was in OSP and everything. They would have known if he told somebody the details. He never did. And even if, okay, you want to say that, okay, well, maybe after he did it, because it was, a few days, I think, a couple of days before they arrested Mike for it, after it happened. Well, how do we know he didn't tell Fautenberry in the meantime of that? Okay, well, because even if he did, he had to show me where the crime took place, because the cops took him down there or pointed it out on a map or something. They notified him where it was at. And I know this because when we're sitting there talking about it, he's like, and they were idiots, because if they didn't, because he was talking about how, like, the way the path used to go and everything, and they said how he went this way. He's like, no, because nobody would have went that way, and he showed me why, kind of thing. So that, yeah, he was right, they were wrong. Because they tried to say that he went up at a diagonal angle on a part of a hill that you can't do that on. And so, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but I'll show you guys whenever I go back down there. Because I have to go back down there because the homeless camps are right by it. The thing is I know exactly where it happened, and I know exactly where the body was left, because, once again, I had to track it down with him because there's no records. I mean, I didn't put it on here, but you know what? I will link it. The only record of this man dying is a state statistic sheet. I can't even find a death certificate. Like, I know that he died here. I know it happened here because of the article. And if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, just look up John Jacob Fautenberry. It will come up. There's a Wikipedia and, like, 2 articles. I'm currently talking to the reporter from the Medium. She did one of the articles, and we were discussing this matter. So, I'm really hoping that everybody hears me and understands me and agrees with me. I'm really just wanting to get this changed. And the only way I can get it changed without all the evidence is maybe if enough people help me talk about it. Like, if we could put enough voices out there. Because how would you feel if it was you or your grandpa that was accused of something they didn't do, and all this happened to them? I'm not asking for much here. I just want it to be right. If it was him, prove it. Show me the damn evidence that was so strong, because that never had to be presented in court. Remember that. If you don't have that, then open this up in cold cases or whatever. Let them properly look into it. Please. He paid a debt that wasn't his. Give him something back. That's all I'm asking. So I appreciate all of you, and if you're still with me, I have a little bit more to talk on, but it's not on that. I appreciate anybody that's still with me. I'm so nervous. I'm probably talking loud and fast, and I'm really insecure right now. So it will hopefully get easier with time. I'm an introvert, but there's so much going on that needs to be talked about around here. Okay, so all of my videos, everything I put up, it doesn't matter if it's one of my videos, if it's one of the podcasts, if it's a TikTok, it doesn't matter. Any money at all I make, I don't care what it is, unless somebody directly sends me something saying, hey, this is for you, you to do this, or for you only, right, kind of thing. All donations, everything I get, 100%, is going to be split in different ways. 25% will go to anybody that's co-hosting with me that day. So I'm going to be doing interviews with the homeless via phone and in person, as well as people that are addicted to things, people in recovery, people who are generational homeless. Like, I'm going to start letting everybody talk and tell their stories as well. So anything made off of those, 25% of that will go to that person's needs. Instead of, I'm not going to go, here's cash, no. Socks and blankets, things that are desperately needed for them to survive the winter. It will go to, if there's anybody out there that really, like, we know some people that want to get off the streets really bad, they're just having trouble getting the move-in money, stuff like that. So 25% will go to that with them, and I will video and show receipts on everything I do. You send me $20 and tell me it's for a jacket for so-and-so, I'm going to go spend money on that, show you the receipt of it, and you get to watch me give it to them on video. I will keep everything above board on that. Then 25% of it goes to me and my costs, because as much as I love helping and doing all this, I have a daughter to support. I have a lot going on in my life. I'm trying to get financially stable again because this economy is just killing me. I did do his hospice on the streets, and it's been hard for me to recover ever since, because I did lose everything in my business, and I'm okay with that. That's a choice I made. I knew what I was giving up. It's just hard, because I've got a wonderful daughter, and Christmas is coming and all that, so unfortunately, I can't say that if we made any money on this, I wouldn't take any of it, because I also have to do gas and all that. plus I do, emergency feminine supplies and everything else. It would just basically help a lot. Now, the other 50% of it will go into a fund because I want to buy property here in town or on the outskirts of town and start the Michael Collier Foundation for the Unhoused, which is a 4-stage program that not only I came up with the concepts and the ideas, but over the last several years, people that are on the streets and people that are addicted to things and people in that lifestyle, I've listened to them and they've listened to me, and we can't guarantee 100%, but I promise you this program is going to work better than anything Oregon has ever seen before, and it will bring money back into the town. It really will. I will be posting that plan as a video as well as a document tomorrow, as long as everything goes all right. If you like and share and subscribe and you keep doing that and you go to our TikTok and everything and you keep helping with all this, every person that views it, likes it, subscribes, and shares it, you are literally helping us help themselves. Because this is not a program to just give them things. We're getting the voices and everything else out there. We're trying to get it to where we can, get help to make, because honestly, I don't think that I hate to say this and it sounds so bad, but a lot of the system is set up for them to fail. And I think that there's people in positions of power that enjoy that, because then they can spend a little bit of the money they get on a program that they know is going to fail and then put the rest to where they want it instead of where it's supposed to go. I want to open up this shelter as hopefully the first one of its kind, but not the last. And I want to show that we can do this. And if there's a better answer than what they've been trying, that there's a better answer to the eradication, to all of this, and this gets them off of the streets of the cities. There's going to be domestic rehabilitation to teach them how to be re-domesticated. Because think about it. You cannot take a feral cat and throw it in the house and expect it to be normal. It takes time, trust, and training. It takes retraining. And a lot of these people have forgotten how to live indoors. Some of them are generational. So there'll be more on that, coming up. And basically, instead of continuing just to bang our heads against the walls, and I say ours, I do have a home and everything else, but I've been on the streets off and on throughout my life. By choice, as weird as that sounds. Anyway, so the goal is $450,000. Do I think we'll make that? I'm praying to every human in the world that we do. I don't really necessarily believe in gods and all that stuff, and I don't believe in the government, but I believe in humanity, and I think that if we can get the word out there, we can get enough help. There are several properties here that will work for what I wanted, and I've talked to different, realtors and zoning people and stuff like that, and they agreed with me. So, if you'd like to help see a real solution, help us out, because this is not just for the homeless. I have hopefully a tailored rehab for addiction as well. We're hopeful here in Roseburg for this. And this is what we're holding on to, because we also know that there's some people that have been on the streets for so long, and there's so much going on. So please like, share, subscribe, and pass this on, especially if you'd like to see a positive, true change. Okay? That's what all of this is about. Getting his name cleared, clearing the air. And starting over and doing it right. Instead of fighting each other, we're going to try to mediate and join each other, but the city doesn't want to hear us right now. They just want to do it their way. They just want to keep eradicating people and dehumanizing them. So please like, share, and subscribe, and pass this around. Bear with me. I promise I will get better at this. If you have any questions for people on the streets, if you've ever wanted to know anything, if you're ever curious about anything, if it's one of those, hey, why do you do that? Or how do you do this? Shoot it at us. We will get it answered for you. If you'd like to have a conversation with somebody from a different lifestyle than yours and you learn about them, please let us know. If you are an off-duty officer especially, please let us know. If is there any off-duty officer, this has nothing to do with cases, this has nothing to do with, I would love to have an officer come on for an hour and a half and talk to me and a few other people I know, and screw the badge, screw the street status. Let's talk as humans and actually see if we can find a better way to communicate and understand each other. So many people are willing to try that here. So much is going on here that's for the positive. Like, we just need some people to back us up. And this, I think, is a good way to start. This will always be in the memory of Michael T. Collier. Some people called him Canning Mike, like as in soda cans, because he collected them. Some people called him Cleaning Mike, because he always picked up trash as he went around at night. I had the privilege to call him Pops. My daughter called him Grandpa. Others called him brother. Some called him friend. But he was not what they call him in this document. If anybody has any factual evidence to dispute this, I'm more than willing to see it, because I have nothing to go on here except for gut and circumstance. But I don't believe he did this. And I believe that Roseburg would have rather have kept him out of sheer spite than let an innocent man go. Because the corruption runs deep around here, and that needs to change. Hello, I hope everyone is doing well. This is going to be a heavy one, so, there's going to be some triggers and some very upsetting things in this. There's going to be a lot of speculation and circumstantial evidence. Unfortunately, that's all we have. I hope everybody's doing wonderful. You are now listening and watching at your own discretion and risk. So, before we get into this, I just figured I would do some clarification here. I've been sitting on this for almost 3 years. Okay. I have personal investment in this case, and I've been waiting almost 3 years because one of a personal request by one of the people that this is about to have waited at least 2 years after his deciding to take an eternal journey. And I've done that. And plus, I was still trying to put the dots together. This is not like a connect the dots easy, guys. This is like yoga twister, holy shit, I can't bend that way kind of shit. Like, I've never seen anything like this. I hope I never see anything like this again. This is going to hopefully at least open up the opportunities to change some things that I believe are injustices, as well as kind of expose a little bit of the corruption and bullshit we deal with here in this county, and the people and the kind of people we deal with, what they're willing to do, So it's gonna be one hell of a rabbit hole, y'all. I hope you're ready for one hell of a ride. I am very new at this. I'm not good at editing. I'm not good at everything. So please bear with me. There's going to be some technical difficulties. I'm going to have some rough roads ahead, but if you'll stick with me, I promise you it's worth it. And this is if the streets could talk. By, every account in the world. By every account in the world. This should never have happened to anybody. And I hope it never happens again. And I'm still hoping to find more of the dots. So shall we get into it? Actually, I should give you guys a little context. I forgot that this is... So this is a case of a serial killer confessing to a crime somebody else has already confessed to and is in prison for. That's the tanglement here. So, yeehaw. So what I've decided to do is I've got all my research right here, and it's in a Google Doc that I'm going to also post the link to, so you can download it if you want. But I'm just going to kind of run the screen over it, so if you want to, you can read it. I'm going to summarize, basically. So between 1990 and 1991, there was a serial killer that not many people have heard of. He was one of the ones that swears up and down it wasn't about anything like, getting them all woo. It was about money and opportunity every time. And from the details of the crimes, for the most part, it kind of sounds that way. Like, using a pew-pew against somebody and then taking their money, their car, their credit cards, until it runs out kind of thing. So, yeah. So, he was a long-haul truck driver, which gave him the opportunity to travel up and down the corridor, the I-5 corridor and stuff like that, I believe was his route. And he was not a very good worker. Like, he didn't have good work ethic. He was pretty lazy. He got fired a lot. He had a bad temper. He actually ended up dating his own stepmom and, ended up being with her in a long-term relationship and stuff like that, even throughout being in prison. He was a messed up cookie. So anyway, They finally caught him in 91 because they found fingerprints at one of his victims' crime scenes. And upon taking him into interrogation, they got their confession pretty good. I mean, there really wasn't much he can do. He was caught. So amongst his confessions, though, was one that kind of threw everybody off, and it caused them to go, wait, what? Which ended up getting him and, I believe, another detective on a plane from Alaska to Oregon, to where they were at Portland Airport, and they discussed something with the Portland police, the detectives specifically. 2 detectives from there then brought John Fautenberry down to Roseburg, Oregon, because even though he had been arrested for the killings in 1990s, he now has confessed